75 women stood on the courthouse steps in downtown Memphis to raise awareness about the tragedy of domestic violence. This comes after a Mid-South woman was gunned down in the parking lot of her employer. Investigators say her ex-boyfriend pulled the trigger. Action News 5's Kanji Anthony has more on their silent statement today. Kanji?
Joe, Taffy Crawford was so well liked, dozens showed up for a silent vigil in her honor today. They hope it makes a loud statement convincing anyone caught in a domestic violence stronghold to get help now.
They stood on the windy courthouse steps of downtown Memphis.
We stood silently in honor and memory of Taffy.
They wore purple ribbons, flowers, and framed photographs of a caregiver who is no longer with us in the color that represents the fight against domestic violence.
Of course, this is something that should have never happened.
Emergency responders, co-workers, relatives, and friends of nurse Taffy Crawford say she's more than a domestic violence statistic. Paige Miller and Crawford worked side by side, saving lives in the Baptist DeSoto emergency room.
Just full of life, had a wonderful spiritual grounding, and just represented anything that you would want in a friend and a mom and a Christian, just a phenomenal young woman.
Miller says Crawford did everything right when she became fearful of her ex-boyfriend, Frank Graham. She took out a protective order to keep him away from her and her 7-year-old son.
Taffy was doing exactly what she should to lay the foundation, and so at this point we want to just make awareness, hopefully change the future for someone else.
And to see that even on this cold, terrible day, they are here to say that it is wrong and they would not want this to be repeated.
Now people here are asking for a Blue Crush approach to domestic violence because as crime continues to drop in the city of Memphis, domestic violence is moving in the opposite direction.
People at the vigil were asking for prayers for Crawford's son, Braden. They started a trust fund for his education at Bancorp South. They're also planning a 5K run. Meanwhile, Graham, a Memphis City employee, faces first-degree murder charges at 6. Why the tragedy has Mayor A.C. Wharton calling for a new city program. Live in the newsroom, Kanji Anthony, Action News 5.